again. It's just me this time because George is away in Morocco. Episode 2 was going to be about setting up an indie game studio, but seeing as George isn't here, I thought I could take you through my process of setting up this workstation that I've just finished building. It's got everything that I need for art, music, and game design. We're not sponsored by any of the products that I mention in this video. They're just the ones that I chose to use. However, I will leave a list of them in the description for this video, in case that's useful to you. The desk has space for my Launchpad, which is used for making fire beats. It's the Ableton Push 2 and it's hooked up to Live 11. On the upper shelf I've got my keys, the Roland AX synth, and next to it is my audio interface. I've got it wired up to my Rode NT1A condenser mic on the left. Thanks to the monitor arm, I can pull the screen nice and close to me so I can use it for drawing. The keyboard can be pushed underneath the top shelf if I need more space for my laptop or a notebook. The rotating screen and touch controls also make it very easy to browse documents. It has cup holders, so I won't be spilling mango flavoured aloe vera juice over everything, which is a nice bonus. And I can put my Spinosaurus tooth in the other one so that it's always within arm's reach when I need it. So the first thing to do was assemble the desk. This is the Fredde desk from Ikea, so obviously it will be named Fredde. It said in the manual that you should have 2 people to construct this desk, but I found that a stack of books was sufficient. You can see me go wrong about 3 times during the build. I get there in the end. The next thing to do was install the monitor arm. I chose the Ergotron LX because the monitor that I'm using is pretty heavy, so I needed a sturdy model to support its weight. The monitor I'll be using is the Wacom Cintiq 27QHD Touch. It's a drawing tablet and it has somewhere close to 98% colour accuracy, so it's great for digital art. As I feared, the clamp that comes with the monitor arm doesn't fit the desk. As I've illustrated here, there's a little bar underneath the bottom of the desk where the monitor arm would clamp on. My hope was that it would fit on like this and the little screwy bit would have enough clearance to avoid the little bar underneath the desk surface. But alas, the bar is in the way and the screwy bit would not fit past it. So the solution was to use the grommet mount provided instead. This means drilling a hole through the desk and securing the arm from underneath. To do this I needed some new drill bits, so I took a walk to the hardware store. It was a nice walk as I got to go through the local park on a crisp winter morning. The sun was shining and the birds were singing. There's even a little stream that runs through the park, which I find rather pleasant. I found this set of drill bits that come in a neat little box and range from 2 to 8mm, which was exactly what I needed. So here's me removing the clamp from the underside of the upright part of the monitor arm. I unscrewed the clampy bit and put it to one side because that is also used with the grommet attachment. This is the bolt that will pass through the surface of the desk and secure the monitor arm to it. Basically, the first thing I did was drop the bolt inside the monitor arm, which was fine at this point because I hadn't screwed it in, but I had to be careful not to do that later in the process, otherwise I would have had to unscrew it and retrieve the bolt. I decided to use some chalk to mark out where I would drill. I have two types of chalk at my disposal. This set of coloured toddler chalks or some fancy French chalk. I opted to use the French chalk because it's powdered. So that I had a reference for where the monitor arm should go, I lay my keyboard, which is in fact a keytar. I may go into why in another episode, but it has this cutout by the neck which allows space for the base of the monitor arm. I quickly regretted my choice to use French chalk as it's very fine, that's kind of the whole point of it, and it just got everywhere. I don't know what the best thing to have used for this would have been. Maybe even something weird like honey, because I think something sticky would have ironically made less mess. I don't actually own a normal person drill, so I opted to use my Dremel. It's a pretty useful tool and I use it for all kinds of odd jobs. I wasn't sure what drilling through this surface would be like exactly because it's OSB inside, a kind of wood. But it's plated with this plasticky plastic. But it turns out it drills fine. You just have a little bit less grip on the top surface. I started by drilling a 2mm pilot hole. Unfortunately, the chuck that I have for my Dremel will only hold bits that are up to 3mm in diameter. So I used a 3mm bit next to expand the hole. To get the rest of the job done, I had to go old school and use my hand drill. I jumped up from 3mm to 5mm. Jeez. Next to 7mm, and finally finished the hole with the 8mm drill bit. This clampy bit goes on the end of the bolt and is secured with a wing nut. I like wing nuts because you can do this fun spinny thing with them. The next job was to attach a Vesa mount to the back of my monitor. It's not really the best mount for this monitor, it turns out, because it actually obscures some of the ports on the back, so it makes plugging in a few of the cables a bit more difficult. But you still can get them all in and out with a bit of jiggery-pokery. In fact, it didn't even come with the right screws to attach it to my monitor. But luckily I've amassed a decent collection of different screws, and I had some that were good for the job. I gave it a little shake test, just to check that it wasn't going to come loose and, crash onto my desk and kill me or whatever. This bit goes on that bit, and then the next bit goes on that bit. I adjusted the tension to make sure it would support the weight of the monitor, and hey presto, the monitor was on the arm. You can see here I test all of the different axes of rotation to make sure it was fully repositionable. I can even orientate the screen on its side, which will be useful if I'm writing a long passage of text or working on an image that's in portrait rather than landscape. Right, the computer. This was a bit of an adventure because I've never constructed a computer before. The motherboard is this Asus ROG Strix Z690-A gaming Wi-Fi D4 motherboard. Catchy title, I know. It's got a nice range of ports for plugging things in, but it perhaps doesn't have the best layout to accommodate some of the other parts I chose. The processor is an Intel Core i7. This motherboard has plates that cover the drives. I'm not sure if this is just for protection or whether they have some kind of heatsink function, but I had to unscrew those to install the SSDs. I'm using two different SSDs. For my main boot drive, where all of the programs will be installed, I've got this T-Force 1TB drive. The second drive, where I'll store most of my files and media, is the Samsung 990 Pro. I love the little tagline that they put on the box. Blistering speed, endless victory. Sure. You know, I don't even know if I want endless victory, because, you know, maybe that gets a bit stale. At least in the context of video games, which is what I assume they are referring to. Because obviously having a faster SSD improves your aim and heightens your reflexes. I followed the guidance on how to best apply the thermal paste. The cooling system I'm using is this Noctua U12A. It runs very quietly, which is a big benefit for me because I'm going to be using microphones a lot around my computer. It's not completely silent, but it's definitely quieter than my laptop is. Unfortunately, it overlaps where the RAM fits in, so I had to attach one of the fans in this kind of janky way. They're supposed to be in line so that you get the best airflow through the system, and I had to scoot it over so that I could accommodate all of the RAM bits, but I think it should be fine. Speaking of RAM thingies, here they all go in, click, 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 and we're ready to put it all together. The case I'm using is this Fractal Pop Silent. It has this squishy sound insulation on the insides of the panels, which theoretically should help quieten the computer. But the trouble with that is that the back is more or less completely open, and so is the bottom. So it's not like it's sound tight. But I thought it would still be an improvement on a regular case. I swapped out the fans it came with more of the Noctua ones, because they're nice and quiet. And in goes all of the hardware. Time to plug in the power supply. This Be Quiet straight power 11 power supply. So hopefully that will be quiet. And then the last piece of the puzzle is the graphics card. I chose this Asus Dual Geforce Auto Extreme OC 8GB PCIe 4.0 3050. This is the final result. I must say I'm pretty chuffed with it all. The computer is down under there, and if I swivel around on my chair, I've got this basic craft station on the other side, which is currently set up for polymer clay. Nothing to do with the video game. I'm making some pieces for a board game prototype that I'm designing. I haven't yet sorted out speakers. Excuse the mess, I haven't built my bookshelf yet. But I have these old active speakers that you can see down there. But to be honest, I don't really like the way they sound. They're a bit muddy. So I think instead I'm going to put a sound bar under here, and that will, you know, probably colour the sound quite a bit, but that's fine because I normally do audio work on cans anyway. So if you're thinking of perhaps setting up a workspace like this for yourself, hopefully that gave you some ideas for what you can do, I guess. It's going to make everything I do much more efficient and enjoyable. I'm really excited to start using it. That's it for this one. All the best.